What if trying to become a real man or a real woman is actually just a distraction from the potential of reaching the healthiest version of yourself? The fascinating thing about this is I look specifically at the word real because this, to me, is all or nothing. You're either real or you're not real. You're either real or you're fake. And this has been so much of the argument in society about becoming a man or becoming a real man. What does it mean to become a real man? It is a construct, it is something that people chase, but they do it because they've been taught that that's what they're supposed to do. Now, this video will probably come off controversial. I don't intend for it to, but I'm going to talk about something and a lot of things within that that a lot of people will probably turn their heads to or turn their heads away from. In Freudian psychology, in psychoanalytic theory, there is the id, there is the ego, and there is the superego. The development of the ego state is the most important thing to look at here. The id is what comes first. The superego is what develops over time. And as you get older, all three of these remain, and the ego state becomes the balance between the id and the superego. Now, a lot of people are distracted from the ego state and the development of the ego state because they are raised by people that are emotionally immature and believe in these ideas of becoming a real man or a real woman. Oh, you need to be more of a man. You need to be a man. This has nothing to do with pronouns or gender stuff or any of the, it's, yeah, you're biologically a man, you're biologically a woman. This is far more about personality constructs than anything. I'm not here to talk about pronouns, I'm not here to talk about any of that stuff, any of the non-binary, none of that stuff. This is entirely about the construct that has been created for people to believe that they're supposed to chase an idea of becoming a real man or becoming a real woman, and all of the characteristics that come with it, and why it is a distraction, and quite honestly, in my full opinion, bullshit in regards to development for any given individual. So when you look at the ego state in Freudian psychology and psychoanalytic theory, healthy ego development consists of healthy boundaries, individuation, and differentiation from a very early age. All three of these allow a person to develop themselves in a healthy, conscious way. It allows them to explore themselves and what it is that they actually like and dislike, develop themselves as an autonomous individual. When you are chasing the construct that is becoming a real man or a real woman, you're chasing something that is separate from this development of the ego state with healthy boundaries and individuation and differentiation. You could ask somebody, what are the characteristics of a real man? They'll tell you, oh, you got to be tough, you got to be this, that, and the other way, you've got to be, I guess, a gentleman. And there are characteristics that goes with all of these different things. But this is so based in traditional foundations that I would argue that it's actually unhealthy to chase a construct like that, and instead to look at the dynamics of what it is that you want for yourself, who it is that you want to become. Because the fascinating thing for a lot of people that I would argue, I'm not claiming fact or truth here. I don't get to tell other people what they want. I don't get to do that. That's not my place. That would be a boundary violation. But the fascinating thing is that what I believe is that a lot of people are chasing this construct of becoming, let's say, men, for instance. It's easier for me to talk about men because biologically I am a man. There's a difference between chasing this idea of becoming a real man and just instead not being attached to the construct of being a real man and instead focusing on what it is that you're actually interested in. Maybe you're told to chase or become a real man or do all of these things to become a real man. Listen, biologically, you're a fucking man. meaning you're just a man. That's all that it is. You have the biological parts to be a man. How do you want to be as a person? How do you want to see yourself? What do you want to create for yourself? That then becomes the boundary. You get to decide that for yourself. You get to choose that for yourself. And you can set boundaries with people that try to influence you away from that and say, that's not what a real man would do. That's not what you should do if you're trying to become a real man. It's a construct, just like everything. It's not good or bad or right or wrong. You can do whatever you want to. You can try to become a real man if that's what you choose to do, if that's what you want to do. A lot of people have been taught to do that. Oh, real men don't cross their legs. Real men don't wear this or that. Real men do this but don't do that. Real women don't take on jobs that are of certain types because that is not woman like. And all of these dynamics are taught very early on, which is what set both men and women up for chasing these constructs and even stressing themselves out in doing things that they don't want to or not doing things that they do want to. Suppression, suppressing their actual self and self expression. That's interesting. Suppressing self expression. That's really what is happening a lot here, the suppression of self expression. If you've been taught that you need to become a real man, and what you want doesn't align with all of the values that correlate with the construct of a real man, but you do it because you were raised in survival where you were taught that you're not allowed to be yourself, you're essentially suppressing your own self expression, which is in and of itself your boundary. So I would essentially call these constructs, I don't even have to call them bullshit. I'll just call them for what they are, a construct. It's not good or bad or right or wrong. You can do whatever you want to. If you want to continue chasing the construct of trying to become a real man and following all the standards to become a real man or a real woman, you can. You can do whatever you want to. I'm not going to tell you that you shouldn't, but I am going to look at this for what it is, for what I see it as, for what I believe it is, for what I've learned that it is. And that is a distraction. What do you actually want for yourself? What do you actually want to create? How do you want to see yourself? What is the personality that you want to construct for yourself? Do you understand that in psychoanalytic theory, the healthy development of the ego state is essentially the most important part of personality? And you get to construct that for yourself. You don't have to follow these ideals that are considerably traditional. I personally believe that they're bullshit. Whenever someone says, oh, be a man, be a real man, toughen the fuck up, do all these things, no. And by the way, let me make it very clear that this does not void emotional maturity. I've actually seen people that are far more emotionally mature that do not chase this whole construct of being a real man. In fact, actually, I've seen so many people chase this construct of being a real man, but it's a mask for insecurity because your development was so fucked up that you don't know how else to be. So you're being something that's just a mask because you don't know what else to do. And that's wild to me. That's fascinating. So then it just becomes like a trauma response. Well, I'm supposed to be chasing this thing of, how to be a real man, and then you go and ask other people, oh, how do you be a real man? What do I need to do? I want to be a real man. I want to attract this. I want to attract that. Do you actually want that, or are you just chasing it because you were taught through traditional standards that that's what you're supposed to chase? I've seen people chase this. I've seen people ask for guidance on how to be a real man. It's just a construct. you're not any less emotionally mature because you don't chase a construct of being a real man. And if I didn't make this very clear already, this whole idea of being a real man or a real woman, from what I have learned, is actually based in emotional immaturity. Why? Well, because it has the two opposing contrasts. You're either real or you're fake, right? So if you're a real man, then you're not a fake man. But let's look at that for what it is. You're either real or you're fake. You're either a real man or you're a fake man. You're either all or nothing. All or nothing. Where does that come from? Infancy. Black or white thinking. Black and white thinking, however you'd like to say it. Oh, you're not a real man, you're a fake man. Oh, really? Yeah, that exposes emotional immaturity. So, all of these arguments, all of these conversations where people fight about, oh, you're not a real man, you're not an actual man, you're a fake man. Black or white thinking, rooted in infancy. That's where it begins. In infancy, we see things in a black or white way, all or nothing, good or bad, right or wrong, opposites. So essentially, people that chase this idea of being a real man, they're essentially trying to avoid being a fake man, which is why they're insecure, which is why they wear the mask, which is why they chase the construct. Because they're trying to be a real man. Oh, I'm insecure. What do I have to do to be a real man? Oh, I'll follow all of these standards and these characteristics to be a real man because I don't want to be a fake man. Oh, so you see yourself as either this or as that. Yeah, that's emotionally immature. Understanding that a human can balance out multiple characteristics rather than just being black or white, that's emotionally mature. You don't need to chase any construct. You can if you want to. I mean, a personality in and of itself is a construct, don't get me wrong. That's the reality of it, but you don't have to do a bunch of things that are not authentic to you that you don't want to do. Follow gender roles, do things that you were told you have to do because your grandparents told you or because your parents told you and they came from traditional backgrounds. You don't have to do anything. Emotional maturity is separate from the construct of becoming or trying to be a real man. Emotional maturity is just emotional maturity. Let's look at for what it is. Having a regulated nervous system, having healthy boundaries, individuation, differentiation. None of that has anything to do with becoming or trying to be a real man. You can separate those two, actually. What do you actually want? And again, this has nothing to do with, 2024 and beyond gender stuff. This does have to do with gender roles, but this doesn't have to do with stuff like pronouns and non binary material. This is all about how people, both men and women, chase this construct of being a real man or a real woman, and they're likely doing things that they don't want to because they were raised in a very fucked up traditional way that taught them something outside of the healthy development of an ego state, and how healthy boundaries, individuation, and differentiation lead to a healthy individual. It has nothing to do with trying to become a real man. I see it all over the place where men are like, listen up, man. You need to do this. You need to do that. You need to do all these things to become a real man. And only then you will be chosen. Only then you will be worthy. Only then you will shut the fuck up. Quite honestly. No disrespect, but it's nauseating at this point. What do you actually want for yourself? You don't have to do all of these things. You don't have to chase all of these things. What do you actually want for yourself? You get to set healthy boundaries, you get to individuate, you get to differentiate. What do you actually want for yourself? Forget what these standards that society has created for you. What do you want for yourself? You determine you, nobody else.